This is the United States of America. Why are you hurting people? If you want to go kill and hurt people, go to Iraq. Why y'all doing this to people? Y'all walk around in riot gear like this is a war. I saw them beating people, people that had nothing to do with anything, just grabbing people out the crowd. There's no honor in that. My mom, my father, everybody has served in Iraq, Afghanistan war. I did 14 months in Iraq. My father was in Afghanistan. My mother did a year in Iraq. We fought for this country. I don't come home. I'm in New York City. I am from New York City, and these cops are hurting people that I fought to protect. There's no reason for this. There's no honor in hurting unarmed civilians, and I won't let it happen. Have a good night.
I served with Kilo Company, 3rd Battalion, 8th Marines as an automatic machine gunner. There's a term, once a Marine, always a Marine. But there's also the term, eat the apple, F the core. I don't work for you no more.
What sort of training did you have as a Marine? I mean, were you given cultural awareness?
This Republican-Democrat thing, all the world is a stage. Obama is a puppet. He reads the script, he's a teleprompter reader, that's his official job, he doesn't make any decisions.
Strings?
The powers that be that have the majority of power in this world are those that control the financial system. The financial crisis engineered by these same criminals who are the ultimate fraudsters of the world. The Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, those are the real string pullers, that's real power. War is out of control, and those who are destroying this world by fraud and deception is what's out of control. 9/11 was the false flag operation used to justify the invasion of Afghanistan. It is the ultimate deception, and it's done for a full spectrum dominance agenda, which is part of controlling this world by deception. And unless we as people stand up to these treasonous traitors and all of those people carrying out this stuff and the colluders, including the mass media and the politicians, we are going to continue to get this kind of deception.
The individual is handicapped by coming face to face with a conspiracy so monstrous that he cannot believe it even exists. And that's the problem we have today. This conspiracy is so monstrous, so demonic, that we tell people about it and they say, you're crazy, this is America, it can't happen here. We have all the evidence needed to prove to anybody, if they'll just look at the evidence, that 9/11 was an inside job.
I wanted to fight in the war. I joined up, month out of training, I arrived in Baghdad, Iraq. We believed 9/11 was a lie. This is in 04. Every soldier served believed 9/11 was a lie. We thought the people would expose the lie, know the war's a lie, and bring us home.
I'm outraged at what is going on. Again, they're using this idea of patriotism and honor. That's bullshit. This war is not about honor. This war is about profiteering. This war is about money. We're nothing but pawns being used for their political agendas. We need to wake up, and these politicians need to stop playing with the citizens' emotions and trying to give them this emotional high and patriotism. Let's speak reality. We need to wake up, America.
What you see with people is that they're desperate to hear what they want to hear. For people to say, oh no, these conspiracy theorists, they're all crazy, you know, they're all paranoid, it's not really going on, it's ridiculous, and this is done to protect you. This is done for you, you know, we're the government. This is why we're doing it. You know, watch the telly, there's a game on in a minute, and you'll be fine. And we're just going to build another concentration camp, okay? See you later.
Take you to the Fema camps being built by Halliburton right now to house 50 million Americans. They're building enough concentration camps in America.
If we don't act now, we're going to lose all our rights. I served my country. I got an honorable discharge from the Army, and I swore an oath to protect the country from all enemies, foreign, domestic. Now, these people that are operating in our government right now are criminals. Whatever you hear on TV isn't what the reality is. You are losing your rights as we speak. You got HR 2749, which is a Food Safety Act, and this affects the entire country. They can stop all forms of transportation in and out of the state. They can destroy vehicles. They can declare martial law, and they can shut restaurants down. They can shut down supermarkets. And that's why they put all these hot button issues out there to distract people, so they argue amongst themselves, like race and abortion and terrorism and healthcare and God only knows what else. They got you all distracted, arguing amongst each other while they're all fucking robbing us. And people don't know. I talked to people today, they didn't even know what martial law was. They're like, what's that? And when I told them, they couldn't believe it. I mean, people have to wake up. And it's unfortunate, but we're at a point right now that if people don't wake up, they're going to lose everything that they fought for. That's where we fell off. We were out watching football or basketball or baseball or going on the beach or talking on the internet or texting each other, whatever the case may be.
The last nail is being driven into the coffin of the American Republic, yet Congress remains in total denial as our liberties are rapidly fading before our eyes. The process is propelled by unwarranted fear and ignorance as to the true meaning of liberty. It is driven by economic myths. Who would have ever thought that the current generation and Congress would stand idly by and watch such a rapid disintegration of the American Republic, which is equivalent to granting dictatorial powers to the president. Our presidents can now, on their own, order assassinations, including American citizens, enforce indefinite imprisonments without due process, treat all Americans as suspected terrorists. It appears that the fate of the American Republic is now sealed.
Every time our country stands in the path of danger, an instinct seems to summon her finest first. It's always the patriots who first hear the call. When loss of liberty is looming, as it is now, the siren sounds first. When ordinary hands can possess such an extraordinary instrument, that symbolizes the full measure of human dignity and liberty. That's why those 5 words issue an irresistible call to us all. So as we set out this year to defeat the divisive forces that would take freedom away, I want to say those fighting words for everyone within the sound of my voice to hear and to heed. From my cold, dead hands.
But we begin tonight with a tale of 2 speeches, both from the same man, both from President Obama. One speech that could have been billed as a ballad to the Constitution, a proclamation of American values, a repudiation of the lawless behavior of the last presidential administration, and another speech announcing a radical new claim of presidential power that is not afforded by the Constitution and that has never been attempted in American history, even by George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. Remarkably, President Obama today made both of those speeches simultaneously. Standing inside the National Archives in front of the actual original Constitution, President Obama delivered a blistering critique of the Bush administration, in which he called their actions and their legacy literally a mess.
Our government made a series of hasty decisions. Poorly planned, haphazard approach. Too often, we set those principles aside as luxuries that we could no longer afford. Our government made decisions based on fear rather than foresight. The decisions that were made over the last 8 years established an ad hoc legal approach for fighting terrorism that was neither effective nor sustainable.
An ad hoc legal approach for fighting terrorism that was neither effective nor sustainable. Ouch. Then, moments later, he announced his own ad hoc legal approach for fighting terrorism. President Obama today proposed something new, something called prolonged detention. Doesn't sound that bad, right? Prolonged detention. Did you ever see the movie Minority Report? It was based on a Philip K. Dick short story. Came out in 2002. It starred Tom Cruise, remember? He played a police officer in something called the Department of Pre-Crime. Pre-crime is where people are arrested and incarcerated to prevent crimes that they have not yet committed.
Mr. Marks. By mandate of the District of Columbia Pre-Crime Division, I'm placing you under arrest for the future murder of Sarah Marks and Donald Dubinos. Take place today, April 22nd, at 0800 hours, 4 minutes.
No,
I didn't do anything.
You didn't do anything, but you're gonna. Future murder. Creepy, right? Putting somebody in jail not for what they've done, but for what you're very sure they're going to do?
There may be a number of people who cannot be prosecuted for past crimes. In some cases because evidence may be tainted, but who nonetheless pose a threat to the security of the United States.
We're not prosecuting them for past crimes, but we need to keep them in prison because of our expectation of their future crimes.
Al-Qaeda terrorists and their affiliates are at war with the United States, and those that we capture, like other prisoners of war, must be prevented from attacking us again.
Prevented. We will incarcerate people preventively. Preventive incarceration. Indefinite detention without trial. That's what this is. That's what President Obama proposed today, if you strip away the euphemisms. One civil liberties advocate told the New York Times today, quote, "We've known this was on the horizon for many years, but we were able to hold it off with George Bush. The idea that we might find ourselves fighting with the Obama administration over these powers is really stunning." And it is stunning, particularly to hear President Obama claim the power to keep people in prison indefinitely with no charges against them, no conviction, no sentence, just imprisonment. It's particularly stunning to hear him make that claim in the middle of a speech that was all about the rule of law.
But we must do so with an abiding confidence in the rule of law. Our government was defending positions that undermine the rule of law to ensure that they are in line with the rule of law.
How can a president speak the kind of poetry that President Obama does about the rule of law and call for the power to indefinitely, preventively imprison people because they might commit crimes in the future? How can those two things coexist in the same man, even in the same speech? Well, that brings us to the self-consciously awkward, embarrassing part of this speech today. After condemning the Bush administration for what he called their ad hoc legal strategy for trying to make things seem legal that patently weren't, this is what President Obama proposed.
My administration has begun to reshape the standards that apply to ensure that they are in line with the rule of law. We must have clear, defensible, and lawful standards for those who fall into this category. We must have a thorough process of periodic review so that any prolonged detention is carefully evaluated and justified. Our goal is to construct a legitimate legal framework for the remaining Guantanamo detainees that cannot be transferred. Our goal is not to avoid a legitimate legal framework. In our constitutional system, prolonged detention should not be the decision of any one man. If and when we determine that the United States must hold individuals to keep them from carrying out an act of war, we will do so within a system that involves judicial and congressional oversight. And so going forward, my administration will work with Congress to develop an appropriate legal regime so that our efforts are consistent with our values and our Constitution.
You'll construct a legal regime to make indefinite detention legal. You will, what does he say? Develop an appropriate legal regime. So you can construct a whole new system outside the courts, even outside the military commissions, so that you can indefinitely imprison people without charges. And you'll build that system from scratch. What's that somebody said about ad hoc legal strategies? Just for context here, in the United Kingdom, where there isn't even a Bill of Rights, there's been a major debate about whether people can be held in preventive detention. Former British Prime Minister Tony Blair wanted 3 months to be the outer limit for how long anyone could be held. There was a big political fight about it. Parliament ended up limiting that power to 28 days. 28 days is still the longest period of preventive detention that's allowed under law in any comparable democracy anywhere in the world. How long would President Obama's proposed preventive indefinite detention last? Well, he's not saying yet, but here's how he defines the threat that he says makes indefinite detention necessary.
Right now in distant training camps and in crowded cities, there are people plotting to take American lives. That will be the case a year from now, 5 years from now, and in all probability 10 years from now.
10 years from now. So you could get arrested today and locked up without a trial, without being convicted, without being sentenced for, say, 10 years until the threat of your future criminal behavior passes. Prolonged detention, he's calling it. This was a beautiful speech from President Obama today with patriotic, moving, even poetic language about the rule of law and the Constitution, and one of the most radical proposals for defying the Constitution that we have ever heard made to the American people.
It's a natural tendency to believe that the world as we know it will remain as we know it, and that any change that does come will be gradual. However, history has shown over and over that this is a false assumption. This tendency, often referred to as the normalcy bias, prevents people from seeing and understanding the immense forces of causality which build up as a society approaches a cataclysmic change. The U.S. economy is headed for a collapse. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate why this collapse is inevitable, and I'm going to show you evidence that the U.S. government is actively preparing for this event right now. The U.S. national debt is currently at about $16.7 trillion, and it's been growing by an average of $3.87 billion a day. This is an inconceivable amount of money. The human mind just isn't capable of registering what numbers of this size actually mean. So let's take a look at a visual representation. This is $100. This is $10,000 in $100 bills. This is $100 million. It's also about how much 3,500 Americans would make with a salary of $28,500 a year. And this is 16 trillion. Again, these are stacks of brand new $100 bills. And guess what? This number is dwarfed by the unfunded liabilities that are estimated to stand between 86 trillion and 123 trillion, depending on who you ask. To add to the mix, we have an estimated $1.2 quadrillion in debt-based derivatives still in the banking system. Now, I couldn't find a graphic representation of $1 quadrillion, but a quadrillion is 1,000 trillion. So it's 1,000 times this. Like I said, these are inconceivable figures here. This is not fixable. Those who try to convince you otherwise are not misinformed. They're lying to you. One way or another, we're headed for a breaking point. This is the inevitable result of having a debt-based currency. For more information on this topic, please watch my video entitled Why a Dollar and Euro Collapse is Guaranteed. The U.S. government sees this coming and they are preparing. The way that they're preparing, though, should make the hair stand up on the back of your neck. You might remember not too long ago I did a report on the billions of rounds of hollow point bullets and buckshot that the Department of Homeland Security has on order. Perhaps you thought this was a crazy conspiracy theory. Well, if Forbes is willing to acknowledge it, is that mainstream enough for you? Last week, I put out a detailed report covering a leaked government document entitled Internment and Resettlement Operations, or FM 3-39.40, which clearly outlines the plans for military internment camps for U.S. citizens, and specifically mentions the use of psychological operations officers within the camps to isolate activists and to pacify the population. The link to the video and the document itself is in the description. And then there's this.
Well, we have our big vehicle out here. It's an armored vehicle. It's an MRAP vehicle. It's mine resistant, ambush protected. That's what it stands for. This is what we use to deliver our team to high-risk warrant services. This is the only entry in the vehicle here, so all the operators, we've modified our particular vehicle to have the skids on the sides so that we can have operators on the side and just get off the vehicle from the sides. It makes for a very fast deployment. That's what we're trying to do. If there's an issue while we're out serving a warrant service or something like that, we can shelter in place with this and then go into surround and call out operations inside of here. We can generally get about 10 or 11 operators in here. Very tight, but we can do it. So we get them in there. We have the same on this side. We have a skid on this side as well. We can put four or five operators on here with a shield, and they deploy off this side. The team commander, which is myself, I'll stand in the MRAP and provide overwatch for the team while they're making entry into the house. This glass right here is multiple layers of glass. It's about, I would say, about that thick. It's got multiple layers in there, and it will stop up to a 50 caliber round. The window will. So it provides very good protection for us. We have gun ports in here, so we can actually shoot from within the vehicle. You may think it's pretty loud, but actually it's not too bad. But we do have gun ports there and in the back, and then two on the side as well. Our team is stationed in El Paso. That's where we're from. We have a team right now, about 17 certified members, and a couple green team guys that are trying to get on the team, and we cover the entire New Mexico state and West Texas, all the way out from El Paso to Midland, and that's our area of operations. Now we are a national team, so we can be called to go anywhere in the United States and assist other teams with whatever they have pending.
It should be obvious that this isn't law enforcement. These are preparations for war. Combine all of this with the NDAA of 2012 and 2013, which give the military the right to kill or detain anyone anywhere in the world without a trial, and you've got the makings of a full-out military dictatorship. Powers that be have no intention of becoming the powers that were. Their system might be falling apart, but they aren't about to just let the people choose what comes next. Now, if you're a rational, intelligent person who's willing to look at reality, then this information is bound to be frightening. For some people, it'll be so overwhelming that they'll just push it out of their minds and do their best to avoid thinking about it. Others will understand that this is irresponsible and will want to do something. But what? Well, let's start by using the process of elimination and discard the options that clearly won't do any good. Option number 1, vote the bums out. That's not going to work, guys. The elections are rigged. The entire system is corrupt to the core. This should be obvious to you by now. You have zero chance of getting your country back through politics at this point. To pretend otherwise is just delusional. Option number 2, hold protests or fill out petitions. Come on, seriously? The criminals running the system don't care what you think. Your petitions mean nothing to them. Stop groveling at their feet. Option number 3, launch a violent revolution. Okay, as popular as this option may be with some people, the fact of the matter is the public is not psychologically or logistically prepared for this. If a small handful of civilians armed only with rifles and handguns try to take on the federal government right now, the results would be disastrous. Anyone with urban combat experience, especially veterans of Iraq or Afghanistan, can attest to this. So what does that leave us? I'm going to describe 3 steps that would change the game if the people could bring themselves together. This is not a command or recommendation, it's just my analysis of what would work. Step number 1, cut the federal government and the bankers off financially. Bleed them dry on every level, meaning stop every single payment going in their direction. If you aren't willing to go cold turkey in this regard, organizing a file for extension, day of action, for example, this April, might be a start. Make no mistake though, to really bring these crooks to their knees, you're going to have to play hardball. Step number 2, occupy and blockade the Congress. Do not let these criminals through the doors. Congress and the Senate are guilty of high treason. The most lenient penalty that they should face for the crimes that they have committed would be a life behind bars. Merely preventing them from going to work would be beyond merciful. But it would be a start. Step number 3, call for the military to break the chain of command and refuse to fight in these wars in Africa and the Middle East. Call for them to come home and protect the people from its real enemies. If soldiers want to fight for freedom, they need to disband the Congress, the executive, and the kangaroo courts that some like to call the judicial system, and bring the financial cartel, which is really running this show, to justice. Sound extreme? Yes, it's extreme, but that's what it would take. Short of this, America's headed for an overt East German-style lockdown when the economy unravels. This isn't something that's coming 20 or 30 years from now. The scale and the pace of the government's preparations should make that clear. Those who have young children and who don't want anything to do with this insanity would be advised to have a plan B, meaning you need to make the necessary preparations to leave the country on short notice. You should have a passport for every member of your family. You should have enough cash to get you out of the country. You need to research the geography, the politics, and the immigration policies of several countries. If the country you're looking at speaks a foreign language, then you need to start learning that language. This is really just the bare minimum. Listen, I don't want to look at this any more than you do. I don't want to see my country go down this road. And to be honest, I don't know what our chances are of changing the outcome. All I know is that we have to try. We've got to wake people up to what's coming. If we're going to win, it's only going to be possible if we reach critical mass. If you feel this message needs to get to the public, then please share this video by every means possible. Share it to Facebook, to Twitter, to your friends via email. If you want more content like this, please subscribe to this channel, Storm Clouds Gathering, here on YouTube. For bonus content and updates, follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/StormCloudsGathering. On Twitter at Collapse Updates. And of course our website, stormcloudsgathering.com. Also, we're doing our live broadcast Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, which is tonight, here on YouTube, so be sure to check in for that.